Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UTS Perseverance and watched her fleet move through the darkness of space. 47 ships followed her command. 12,000 men and women served under her flag. The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet was the pride of the United Terran Navy, and today they were escorting a diplomatic convoy through the Helion system. It was supposed to be a simple mission, safe, routine. Tanaka had commanded fleets for 20 years. She had fought pirates near Jupiter. She had protected colonies from raiders. She had earned every medal on her uniform through blood and sacrifice. But nothing in her long career had prepared her for what was about to happen. The first warning came from her censor officer. It's a young man named Lieutenant Park. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Admiral, I'm detecting energy signatures. Multiple contacts appearing on all sides." Tanaka turned to the main display screen. Her blood went cold. Ships were materializing out of nothing. Hundreds of them. They appeared like ghosts, their cloaking technology far beyond anything humans had ever seen. Within seconds, the 3rd Fleet was completely surrounded by an enemy armada that outnumbered them. 6-1, the Vrethkai had come. Tanaka knew about the Vrethkai Dominion. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were an ancient empire ruled by insectoid creatures who viewed other species as insects themselves, fit only to be crushed or enslaved. For decades, they had ignored humanity. Considering the young species too small and weak to matter, something had changed their minds. "All ships, raise shields and prepare for combat," Tanaka ordered. Her voice was calm, even though her heart was racing. "Formation Delta. Protect the diplomatic vessels at all costs." Her fleet responded instantly. Human ships moved into defensive positions, their weapons powered and ready. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they were not afraid. They were Terran Navy. They would fight. The Vrethkai did not bother with warnings or demands for surrender. They simply opened fire. Tanaka had never seen weapons like these. They did not shoot plasma or missiles or any energy her ships could understand. Instead, strange beams of light passed through shields like they were not there. They passed through armor like it was made of paper. They passed through everything. The cruiser Valiant was hit first. One moment it was a proud warship with 300 crew members. The next moment it was dark and dead, floating lifeless in space. No explosion. No fire. The ship just stopped being alive. What happened? Tanaka demanded. What hit them? Her science officer was pale with shock. "Quantum phase weapons, Admiral. They destabilize matter at the molecular level. Our shields can't stop them. Nothing can stop them." 17 ships died in the first volley. 17 ships with thousands of crew members gone in seconds. Tanaka watched them die and felt something break inside her chest. "All ships, emergency retreat," she ordered. "Get 2 FTL, jump distance. Now." But the Vrethkai were not going to let them escape. Their ships moved to block every exit route. They were not just attacking. They were hunting. They wanted to kill every single human in the system. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Thunderbolt made a choice. He turned his ship toward the largest concentration of enemy vessels and accelerated to full speed. "Admiral, I'll make a hole." "Get the others out." Rodriguez. No, the Thunderbolt charged into the enemy formation, weapons firing in every direction. It was a suicide run, and everyone knew it. The brave ship lasted almost a minute before quantum beams tore it apart. But that minute was enough. A gap appeared in the Vrethkai line. "All ships, go now," Tanaka shouted. The surviving human vessels ran for their lives. Behind them, the Vrethkai gave chase, picking off stragglers one by one. The carrier Olympus vanished. The frigate Swift Heart went dark. Ship after ship died as they tried to escape. 4 vessels made it to FTL distance. 4 out of 47. They jumped into hyperspace and left the killing field behind. The Perseverance was not one of them. Tanaka's flagship took 3 direct hits as it tried to reach safety. The first beam killed half her bridge crew. The second destroyed her engines. The third passed through her own chest as she stood at her command post. Refusing to abandon her duty, Admiral Yuki Tanaka died standing. her eyes fixed on the stars she had served all her life. When news of the massacre reached Earth, the planet went silent. 12,000 people. 43 ships. Gone in 11 minutes. The Vrethkai had not even lost a single vessel. Families gathered around screens and wept. Politicians gave angry speeches that meant nothing. Military commanders studied the battle footage and saw no way they could have won. Human shields did not work against quantum weapons. Human tactics did not work against an enemy with such numbers. Human courage did not matter. When the enemy could kill you through your armor, the galactic community watched with cold interest. They had seen this before. A young species challenged an old empire and learned the price of their arrogance. Most expected humanity to surrender. Some expected them to negotiate. A few expected them to slowly fade away, their expansion stopped, their spirit broken. None of them understood humans at all. In Geneva, United Earth Council met in emergency session. Leaders from every nation argued about what to do. Some wanted peace at any price. Others wanted revenge they could not achieve. The debate went in circles until Fleet Admiral James Chen stood and slammed his hand on the table. "Enough," he said. "We have one question to answer. Do we bow or do we fight?" "Fight with what?" someone asked. "They destroyed our best fleet like it was nothing." Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we build better. We adapt. We learn. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done." Vote was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. On Mars, deep beneath the red surface, a secret research facility received an encrypted message. Director Elena Vasquez read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Project Lazarus was activated. No budget limits. No restrictions. No rules. Build something that cannot be killed. Elena looked at her team of scientists and engineers. They had been working on theoretical weapons and defenses for years, never allowed to actually build them. Now they had permission. Now they had purpose. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we have work to do. The Vrethkai think they ended humanity today. Let's show them they just woke us up." In the darkness of space, the wreckage of the Third Fleet drifted silently. Among the dead ships and frozen bodies, something still beeped. A black box recorder capturing data about the weapons that had killed so many. Humanity would find that data. Humanity would learn from it, and humanity would come back with a vengeance. 6 months passed after the massacre at Helion's Gate. The galaxy waited for humanity to die, human. Colonies pulled back to core systems. Human trade ships disappeared from major routes. Human diplomats went silent. To the Vrethkai and everyone else watching, it looked exactly like a species preparing for extinction. The High Matriarch of the Dominion was pleased. The mammalian vermin had learned their place. She should have looked closer, deep beneath the surface of Mars. Director Elena Vasquez had not slept more than 4 hours a night since the massacre. Her facility, once home to 300 researchers, now held over 2,000. Scientists, engineers, military specialists, and the smartest minds humanity could gather, worked around the clock on Project Lazarus. Their first task was understanding what had killed the Third Fleet. A recovery team had risked everything to reach the Helion system and retrieve debris from the destroyed ships. They lost 2 vessels to Vrethkai patrols, but they brought back enough data to change everything. The black box recorders had captured detailed information about the quantum phase weapons. Dr. Samuel Okonkwo studied that data for 3 weeks without leaving his laboratory. He was an old man now, with white hair and tired eyes. For 20 years, the scientific community had laughed at his theories about dimensional physics. They called him crazy. They called him a dreamer. They refused to fund his research. Now humanity's survival depended on those same theories being correct. "I understand how it works," he announced to Vasquez one morning. His voice shook with exhaustion and excitement. "The quantum phase effect destabilizes matter by pushing it slightly out of phase with our dimension. The weapons create a brief window where solid matter becomes ... uncertain. That is why shields do not stop them. The beams are not really in our dimension when they pass through." Vasquez leaned forward. Can we stop it? Stop it. No. Okonkwo smiled for the first time in months. But we can anchor ourselves so firmly in this dimension that the effect cannot touch us. Dimensional anchoring. If we make a ship's matter completely stable, completely fixed to local space-time, no quantum weapon can shift it. The first test of the dimensional anchor nearly destroyed the entire facility. The energy required was enormous, and the containment field failed after 3 seconds. Half the laboratory was reduced to twisted metal. Okonkwo did not give up. He rebuilt. He adjusted. He tried again. The second test worked. A small metal cube sat in the center of the test chamber. Scientists fired a captured quantum phase emitter at it. The beam passed through the cube without effect. The metal remained solid, remained real. The dimensional anchor held. Vasquez watched the successful test with tears in her eyes. For the first time since Helion, she allowed herself to feel hope. But defense was only half the answer. Humanity also needed to strike back in another section of the facility. Weapons engineers took the quantum phase technology apart and rebuilt it. They did not just copy the Vrethkai design. They improved it. Human quantum weapons did not just destabilize matter. They collapsed it entirely, creating small tears in the fabric of space itself. Anything caught in the effect would simply cease to exist. Meanwhile, Admiral Chen Wei oversaw the construction of a new fleet in orbital shipyards around Earth and Luna. She had lost her brother at Helion. Commander David Chen had served on the Valiant, one of the first ships destroyed. She carried his photo in her pocket every day. The old fleet had been built according to centuries of naval tradition. Big ships, heavy armor, organized formations. All of that had failed against the Vrethkai. Chen threw out the old plans and started fresh. The new ships were smaller and faster. Each vessel could operate alone or link with others through an advanced AI network. When connected, they shared information instantly. They coordinated attacks without needing orders. They adapted to enemy tactics in real time, faster than any human commander could react. We built ships that think, Chen explained to the Earth Council. Ships that learn. Ships that fight together like a single organism with 100 bodies. The Vrethkai have numbers. We will have intelligence. The construction workers understood what they were building and why. Many had lost family at Helion. They worked double shifts without complaint. They caught mistakes that would have taken weeks to find. They poured their grief and anger into every weld, every circuit, every hull plate. Humanity was building weapons of war, but also monuments to their dead. While the fleet took shape, human intelligence operatives reached out to other species across the galaxy. The Vrethkai Dominion had many enemies. The Kethari had lost their homeworld to Vrethkai strip mining. The Voss Collective had been forced to surrender their trading empire. The Morith had been hunted nearly to extinction. Humanity did not ask these species for ships or soldiers. They asked for something more valuable: information. Vrethkai patrol schedules, communication frequencies, the locations of fleet bases and supply depots, weaknesses in their defense networks. Every species the Dominion had wronged held pieces of this puzzle. Humanity gathered those pieces carefully, building a picture of their enemy that the Vrethkai never expected anyone to have. 1 year after the massacre, the work was complete. The new Terran fleet numbered only 32 ships, far fewer than the third fleet that had been destroyed. But each of these vessels carried dimensional anchors that made them immune to quantum weapons. Each carried improved quantum torpedoes that could tear holes in reality. Each was linked to a combat AI that made them faster and smarter than anything else in space. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UTS Vengeance, the flagship of the new fleet. She looked at the stars and thought of her brother. "Are we ready?" asked her executive officer. "We were born ready," Chen replied. "Humanity adapts. That is what we do." She opened a channel to broadcast on all galactic frequencies. Every species with a receiver would hear her words. Every Vrethkai ship would record them. "To the Vrethkai Dominion," she said. "1 year ago, you killed 12,000 of our people. You thought that would break us? You were wrong. We did not break. We learned. We grew. We evolved. Now we are coming for you. Your weapons cannot hurt us. Your numbers do not scare us. You wanted war with? Humanity? Congratulations. You got one. Ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Set course for Nexus Point. Theta, it is time to show the galaxy what happens. When you make humanity angry, the fleet jumped to hyperspace, and the stars blurred around them. The Vrethkai. Dominion was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. Nexus Point Theta was a fortress in space. The Vrethkai had built it 300 years ago to guard the border of their empire. Massive weapon platforms surrounded a central station the size of a small moon. 50 warships patrolled the area at all times. Energy shields overlapped in layers that could stop any attack. No enemy had ever tried to assault Nexus Point Theta. The very idea was considered suicide. Hive Admiral Scrixtal commanded the fortress with cold pride. She was old for her species, her carapace scarred from a dozen campaigns. She had crushed rebellions, destroyed fleets, and earned her position through centuries of victory. When her sensors detected the approaching human ships, she felt nothing but contempt. 32 vessels. The mammals had brought 32 tiny ships against her fortress. They had lost their minds. She clicked to her subordinates. The slaughter at Helion broke their brains. They come to die. She ordered her fleet to intercept. 50 warships moved forward in perfect formation, their quantum weapons charging. This would be quick and easy. Another massacre to add to Vrethkai history. Admiral Chen watched the enemy approach on her tactical display. She felt no fear. She had spent a year preparing for this moment. Every simulation, every training exercise, every sleepless night had led here. All ships activate dimensional anchors, she ordered. Wait for them to fire first. Let them see that their weapons are useless. The Vrethkai fleet opened fire at maximum range. Quantum beams lanced through space toward the human vessels. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every shot should have killed. Every shot passed through without effect. On the bridge of her flagship, S mandibles froze in shock. She watched the beams hit the human ships and do nothing. Absolutely nothing. The mammals kept coming, as if her weapons were made of light and air. Impossible, she hissed. Fire again. Full barrage. Her fleet unleashed everything they had. Hundreds of quantum beams struck the human formation. The human ships did not slow down. They did not take damage. They did not die. Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile. Our turn. All ships fire at will. The human fleet returned fire with their improved quantum torpedoes. Blue-white streaks of energy crossed the darkness between the fleets. When they hit the Vrethkai ships, the results were devastating. The cruiser, Endless Hunger, was struck first. The torpedo did not just damage the ship, it erased it. One moment there was a warship. The next moment, there was a hole in space where the warship had been. The matter that made up the vessel and its crew simply stopped existing. 2 more cruisers vanished in the same instant. Then a destroyer. Then another. Scrixtal felt something she had not experienced in 200 years. Fear. All ships, evasive action, she screamed. Return to the station. Get behind the shields. But the human fleet was not going to let them escape. The 32 small ships moved with impossible coordination. They did not fly like individual vessels with individual pilots. They moved like fingers on a single hand, controlled by one mind, reacting faster than any living creature could manage. When Vrethkai ships tried to scatter, human vessels were already there to cut them off. When they tried to concentrate fire on a single target, the humans split apart and struck from multiple angles. When they tried to retreat, humans pursued like wolves chasing wounded prey. Captain Marcus Webb commanded the destroyer Reckoning. He was young for a captain, only 30 years old. But he had graduated top of his class and volunteered immediately for the new fleet. His ship was small, fast, and deadly. Commander, I have an idea, he said to Admiral Chen through the fleet link. The station's shields are oriented outward. If we get inside the defensive perimeter, we can hit them where they're vulnerable. That's a suicide run, Chen replied. The weapon platforms will tear you apart. Webb looked at the image of his younger sister on his console. She had been a medic on the Perseverance. She died trying to save wounded crew members during the massacre. My shields will hold, he said. Trust me. Chen was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. Go, we'll cover you. The Reckoning accelerated toward the station at full speed. Weapon platforms opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts and laser beams struck the small ship from every direction. The dimensional anchor held. The ship kept moving. Webb's crew worked in perfect silence. They trusted their captain. They trusted their ship. They trusted humanity's engineering. The Reckoning passed through the outer defense ring, then the inner ring. Weapon fire came from all sides now, so intense that the ship glowed from the heat being absorbed by its shields. Any normal vessel would have been destroyed 100 times over. The Reckoning was not a normal vessel. Targeting the reactor core, Webb announced. Kinetic accelerators charged. Firing. His ship carried something the Vrethkai had never seen. Projectile weapons that fired solid metal at nearly 1% of the speed of light. No shield in the galaxy could stop mass moving that fast. The first shot punched through the needle-through paper. The second shot went deeper. The third shot hit the main reactor. Nexus point. Theta died in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The explosion caught 6 Vrethkai warships that had been trying to reach the station's protection. They vanished in the flames. When the light faded, human fleet had destroyed the fortress, 43 enemy warships, and 3 centuries of Vrethkai military confidence. They had not lost a single ship. Admiral Chen surveyed the debris field. Pieces of Vrethkai vessels floated through space, mixed with the dust that had once been. The most feared fortress on the border. Mission complete, she said softly. The butcher's bill for Helion just started coming due. She opened a channel to the surviving Vrethkai ships. 7 vessels remained, their weapons offline, their crews in shock. Run, she told them. Run home and tell your masters what you saw today. Tell them their weapons are useless against us. Tell them their defenses cannot stop us. Tell them humanity is coming, and nothing in this galaxy will save them. The Vrethkai ships fled at maximum speed. Chen turned to her navigation officer. Plot a course for Target 2. We have more work to do. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving only wreckage and memories behind, across the galaxy. Other species watched the recordings of the battle with amazement. The humans had done the impossible. They had taken the Vrethkai's own technology, made it better, and used it to destroy them. But more importantly, they had proved something that the galaxy had forgotten. When humanity fell down, they got back up. When they got back up, they came back stronger. And when they came back stronger, heaven help anyone who had knocked them down in the first place. The hunt had only just begun. The High Matriarch of the Vrethkai. Dominion received news of Nexus Point Theta's destruction while sitting on her throne. Her palace was a massive hive structure built from the bones of conquered species. For 300 years, she had ruled from this chamber. For 300 years, no enemy had ever made her feel afraid. Now she felt terror. She watched the battle recordings again and again. Human ships ignoring quantum weapons. Human ships destroying her fleet. Human ships tearing apart a fortress that should have been invincible. The mammals had not just survived her attack at Helion. They had come back stronger. This was not how the universe worked. Young species died when old empires crushed them. That was the natural order. That was how things had always been. The High Matriarch summoned her war council. Admirals and generals from across the Dominion gathered in her throne room. Their carapaces clicked with nervous energy. None of them had ever seen their matriarch afraid before. The humans must be destroyed, she announced. Not defeated, not conquered, destroyed. Every colony, every ship, every last one of them must be erased from existence. One of her admirals stepped forward. Matriarch, the humans have developed countermeasures against our quantum weapons. How do we fight enemies we cannot hurt? With numbers, the matriarch replied. with overwhelming force. They have 30 ships. We will bring 4,000. They have clever technology. We will drown them in bodies until their clever technology runs out of power. She gave the order. Every Vrethkai warship in the Empire was to converge on the homeworld. Defense fleets from 100 systems abandoned their posts. Patrol squadrons returned from the borders. The entire military might of the Dominion gathered in one place. 4,000 warships. The largest fleet assembled in Vrethkai history, but the matriarch was not finished. Deep beneath the surface of the homeworld, buried in tunnels that had been sealed for 3 centuries, something ancient waited. The progenitor fleet. 12 vessels built during the last Great War, each one the size of a small moon. They carried weapons designed for one purpose, the complete destruction of worlds. The progenitors had been mothballed because they were too destructive. Using them against lesser enemies was considered wasteful, like burning down a forest to kill a single insect. But the humans were no longer insects. The matriarch ordered the progenitors awakened. Admiral Chen's scouts reported the gathering armada with growing alarm. They had expected retaliation, but nothing like this. 4,000 ships, plus the progenitor dreadnoughts. Enough firepower to burn every human world to ash. Chen called an emergency meeting with Earth Command. The holographic images of military leaders and politicians filled her conference room. None of them looked hopeful. "Cannot fight those numbers," admitted General Morrison. "Our dimensional anchors protect us from quantum weapons. But they can still ram us, surround us, swarm us until our reactors burn out. 32 ships against 4,000 is not a battle. It is extinction. Then we negotiate," suggested Ambassador Patel. "We have leverage now. We proved we can hurt them. Perhaps they will accept peace." Chen shook her head. "The Vrethkai do not want peace. They want us dead. You saw what they did at Helion. They did not demand surrender. They did not ask for territory. They killed everyone they could catch. They will do the same to Earth if we give them the chance." "Then what do you suggest?" Morrison asked. Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment she had dreaded since the war began. She had hoped they could win with skill and technology alone. Now she knew that hope was gone. "We hit them first," she said. "Before their fleet finishes assembling, before the progenitors are fully activated, we strike at their staging area and destroy them in one blow." "With what?" Morrison demanded. "We do not have enough ships, too. Not with ships." Chen turned to a holographic image of Director Vasquez. Alina showed them Project Prometheus. Vasquez activated a display. Technical diagrams filled the air, showing something that made several leaders gasp in horror. "Dimensional cascade bomb," Vasquez explained. "We developed it as a last resort. It does not just destroy matter. It tears a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. Everything within a light-hour radius gets pulled into the wound. Nothing survives. Nothing remains." The room was silent. This was not a weapon. This was an atrocity in a box. "You want to use this?" Ambassador Patel whispered. "Do you understand what you are suggesting?" "I understand exactly what I'm suggesting," Chen replied. "I am suggesting we end this war before the Vrethkai turn Earth into a graveyard. Before they kill billions of our people. Before they hunt down every human colony and burn it to nothing. But the destruction will be limited to military targets." Chen's voice was iron. "We deliver the bomb to their fleet anchorage while their ships are still gathered. We destroy their military capability in one strike. Their worlds survive. Their civilians survive. Only their war machine dies." Morrison studied the diagrams. "Can it be done? Can we actually deliver this weapon to their staging area?" Vasquez nodded slowly. "Yes, but it will require a volunteer crew. The ship that carries the bomb will have to get close before detonation. They may not escape in time." "They definitely will not escape," Chen said quietly. "I will not lie to anyone about that. This is a one-way mission." The room fell silent again. Everyone understood what she was saying. Some humans would have to die to save the rest. "I will lead the mission myself," Chen said. "No." The voice came from Captain Sarah Torres, who had been listening silently. "You are too valuable, Admiral. The fleet needs you. I will go. Torres had lost her entire family at Helion. Parents, brothers, childhood friends. She had nothing left except duty and the burning need for justice. I have been waiting for this chance, she continued. Let me do something that matters. Let me end this. Chen looked at the young captain for a long moment. She saw the determination in her eyes, the acceptance, the peace. Very well, Chen said. Captain Torres will command the strike mission. We launch in 12 hours, Torres saluted. I will not fail you, Admiral. I will not fail humanity. I know you will not. Chen returned the salute. Make it count, Sarah. Make them remember us forever. 12 hours later, a small task force of 12 ships departed for Vrethkai space. They carried the dimensional cascade bomb. They carried the hopes of humanity. And they carried crews who knew they would not be coming home. The final battle was about to begin, Captain. Sarah Torres stood on the bridge of the UTS Final Word and watched the stars blur past. Her task force of 12 ships raced through hyperspace toward the Vrethkai homeworld. Every crew member aboard understood the mission. Every one of them had volunteered, knowing they would probably never return. Torres thought about her family. Her mother had been a teacher on the Perseverance, giving lessons to crew members' children. Her father had been a maintenance engineer who kept the ship running. Her two brothers had served together in the fighter wing. All of them died at Helion in 11 minutes of slaughter. Now she would make their deaths mean something. Exiting hyperspace in 10 minutes, announced her navigation officer. Torres nodded. All ships, prepare for combat. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. Today we write the final chapter of this war. The Vrethkai Grand Fleet was gathered at their main staging area, a region of space near their homeworld. 4,000 warships floated in formation, their weapons charged and ready. The 12 progenitor dreadnoughts loomed above them like metal mountains. Still powering up their ancient systems, the High Matriarch commanded from her flagship, the Eternal Hunger. She was eager to begin the extermination of humanity. In her mind, she already saw human worlds burning. Human children screaming. The mammalian vermin erased from the galaxy forever. Her sensor officer interrupted her pleasant thoughts. Matriarch, detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL. Matriarch's mandibles clicked with amusement. How many? 12 vessels, Matriarch. Human configuration, 12. She laughed, a harsh clicking sound. They send 12 ships against 4,000. The mammals truly are insane. Torres watched her display as the massive enemy fleet appeared on sensors. The numbers were terrifying. 4,000. Warships surrounded by defensive platforms, 12 moon-sized dreadnoughts. Enough firepower to destroy solar systems, her 12 ships looked like insects approaching a hurricane. All ships, maximum acceleration, she ordered. Head straight for the center of their formation. Do not stop for anything. The human task force charged forward. The Vrethkai fleet opened fire immediately. Even with dimensional anchors protecting them, the humans could not ignore physics. Enough concentrated fire would eventually overwhelm their systems. The ship-burning star took heavy damage in the first volley. Its engines failed, leaving it drifting and helpless. Torres watched it fall behind and forced herself not to look back. Keep moving, she ordered. We stop for nothing. The Vrethkai commander in charge of the perimeter defense was confused. Why were the humans charging directly into certain death? What did they hope to accomplish? He ordered his ships to concentrate fire on the lead vessel, the destroyer. Hope's End exploded under the combined assault of 50 warships. Its dimensional anchor finally failed after absorbing more damage than any ship should survive. 11 vessels remained. Torres gripped her command chair. We need to get closer. The High Matriarch watched the battle with growing curiosity. The humans were losing ships, but they kept coming. They did not try to fight. They did not try to retreat. They just pushed forward like animals trying to reach water in a desert. What were they carrying? Matriarch, said her intelligence officer. Our sensors are detecting an unusual energy signature aboard one of the human vessels. It appears to be some kind of dimensional technology, but the readings are unlike anything we have recorded. The matriarch's amusement faded. She remembered what human dimensional technology had done to Nexus Point Theta. Destroy them. Destroy them all. Now, the Vrethkai fleet intensified their attack. 2 more human ships were destroyed. Then another. Then 2 more. Torres watched her task force die around her and kept moving forward. 6 ships left. Then 5. Then 4. "We're in range," her weapons officer announced. "We can deploy the bomb." Torres looked at her crew. Young men and women who had volunteered to die for their species. They showed no fear. Only determination. "It has been an honor serving with you," she said. "All hands, prepare for deployment. This is what we came here to do." She opened a final communication to Admiral Chen, knowing it would take hours to reach Earth. "Admiral, we made it. The bomb is being deployed. Tell everyone. Tell them we were not afraid. Tell them we were proud. Tell them humanity does not kneel." The final word released the dimensional cascade bomb into the heart of the Vrethkai fleet. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then reality screamed. The bomb did not explode. It opened. A wound appeared in the fabric of space-time, a sphere of absolute nothing that expanded outward at impossible speed. Ships that touched the edge simply stopped existing. They were not destroyed. They were erased, pulled into a dimension that had no matter, no energy, no existence. The Vrethkai fleet tried to flee. 4,000 ships scrambled in every direction, their formations collapsing into chaos. But the cascade expanded faster than they could run. The High Matriarch had 2 seconds to understand what was happening. 2 seconds to realize that her entire fleet, her progenitors, her empire's military might, was being swallowed by nothing. She opened her mandibles to scream. The eternal hunger ceased to exist when the cascade finally stopped expanding. A hole remained in space, a perfect sphere of emptiness where the Vrethkai Grand Fleet had been. 4,000 warships, 12 progenitors, millions of soldiers. Gone. All of them gone. Captain Torres and her crew died in the cascade along with the enemy. They had known they would. They had accepted it. Their sacrifice bought humanity's survival. The Vrethkai Dominion collapsed within weeks. Without their military, their empire had no way to enforce control. Subject species rose up across 100 worlds. The Hive Queens, who had ruled for centuries, found themselves alone and vulnerable. They sent desperate messages to Earth, begging for peace. Admiral Chen received them with cold satisfaction. She remembered her brother. She remembered the 12,000 dead at Helion. She remembered Sarah Torres and her brave volunteers. Her terms were simple: complete disarmament, release of all conquered territories, reparations to every species the Dominion had wronged, and a permanent reminder that attacking humanity was the worst mistake any species could make. The Vrethkai agreed to everything. 1 year later, Admiral Chen stood at a memorial ceremony on Earth. Representatives from 30 species attended. Behind her, a wall displayed the names of everyone who died at Helion and everyone who died in the final mission. "We did not ask for this war," Chen said to the assembled crowd. "We did not want it. But when it came, we faced it the way humanity has always faced threats. We adapted. We learned. We grew stronger. We refused to surrender, refused to kneel, refused to accept that our story was over." She paused. Looking at the stars visible through the memorial's glass ceiling, Vrethkai thought they could sink our fleet and break our spirit. They were wrong. They only woke something inside us. Something that has always been there, through every challenge our species has faced. The will to survive. The will to fight. The will to win. She turned to face the alien representatives directly. "Let this be the lesson the galaxy remembers. Humanity may fall. We may be hurt. We may be wounded. But we always get back up. And when we do, we come back stronger than before. The Vrethkai tried to sink our fleet and we upgraded it to God mode. Anyone else who wants to test us is welcome to try." She smiled, but her eyes were hard. We will be waiting." The applause that followed echoed across the memorial. Across Earth, across the entire human territory, somewhere among the stars, the spirits of the fallen watched their people stand tall. Humanity had proven itself, not just to the galaxy, but to themselves. They were no longer a young species finding their way. They were survivors, warriors, builders, dreamers who turned nightmares into victories. They were human, and they were just getting started.